up? Yeah.
Kane is in the building.
Yeah. Alright, already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Alright, already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on.
Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through they teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by...
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Malik Wright. Joined by my co-hosts, as always, we've got Daniel, we've got Logan, we've got Evan, we've got Marissa on the ones, twos, and we have a jam-packed show. Guys, it's been a while since we've been live together, so it's good to see you guys. It is. Last week we had a busy free agency
Very
show.
busy.
I don't know why I say it's been a while since we've been live together. It's been a week, right?
Yeah.
Because
Feels like forever, man.
It does feel like
Feels
forever,
like
especially when you're in front of a camera each and every single day. But you know what? I'm happy that you guys are back on the show, and I'm happy that you guys chose to spend your Wednesday evenings with us. Before we jump into all of the discussion, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics studio. Boys, the Bengals had a busy free agency, and Daniel and I did a lot of covering of it. I'm sure he's probably tired of seeing me.
You just live
At
together.
this point,
We
and
do
always
live together.
So probably
It's a very
probably
good
is
point.
tired of seeing me at this point.
Good.
Every chance he gets, probably looks to go to the gym by himself. But
That's
neither here nor there.
together.
That is true. That is true. But you guys didn't get a chance to really touch on some of these free agency signings, and this is the opportunity that I want you guys to sort of give your grade of the Bengals free agency before we actually start to go into some of the signings. You guys can use this time to go into some of the signings so far. I know we're going to have the Trent Brown discourse, but Evan, you have a hot mic in front of you. I'm sure there's some stuff that you want to say. I'm sure there's some things that you want to say. So let's talk about it.
Check me out. Okay. Mike Gesicki, man. Finally, Malik. You've been leading the charge. You know, you even had the wandering eyes for another player across the league, Mr. Noah Fant. But
Who?
hey, Noah who, right?
If you're a client, I have a new thing. If you are a client of David Mulgeta, I am going to deal with you as if you don't exist, unless you're on the Bengals team already.
Who do you know here?
Be honest.
All right. But yeah, Mike Gesicki, man, it's a lot of fun. And, you know, there's a lot of things that have been said about his versatility at this point where, you know, if you're coming out with him as your slot guy to kind of help pseudo replace Tanner Hudson and Tyler Boyd, and you can come out with him and Drew Sample, and technically it's two tight end. And so they're going to have to match with base, and whether, you know, that's, you know, three linebackers or if they're running out with nickel, which is a common practice for a lot of teams, man, you're going to be giving up a lot of size and length to Mike Gesicki. So I feel like that's going to be pretty advantageous. It's going to, as long as he's a willing blocker. I know that that's kind of the drawback for him. And it's easy to look at his production over the last few years and be discouraged. But, you know, when you consider the situations he was in, especially with the regime change in Miami, where he was going to be kind of on the outs anyways, because he wasn't that typical blocking tight end you want for that Shanahan system. And then you go to New England, where you've got Matt Patricia and Joe Judge as co-offensive coordinators and
Geniuses.
Yeah, right. So, and they signed Jonnu Smith, Hunter Henry, and Mike Gesicki. So, like, we can talk about his stats for the last couple of years, man, but this is a very unique situation where this has been an underutilized weapon, and he is coming to the complete opposite of all of that in the Bengals. So I'm really excited about what he can do for them as a receiver. Geno Stone was really surprising, and hey, I'll be the first to admit that I was wrong, because some of you were asking about him prior to free agency, and I remember saying, like, he wants to start. I don't know if the Bengals are necessarily going to bench Dax Hill, right? Well, the Bengals apparently are going to bench Dax Hill, which is something I'm sure we'll get into more on the rest of the show. So that was surprising to see. But Geno Stone, great signing, great value too. You're not paying even necessarily top half safety money, especially after seeing what Xavier McKinney got. Whoa, we thought he was getting 13 and he got like 17. But Geno Stone, 7th in coverage grade last season among safety, 5th in passer rating when target allowed. Good coverage safety. Missed tackles can kind of be that drawback for him. But hey, good bodies up front and some help back there from a guy named Von Bell or Jordan Battle can definitely help shore that up a little bit. And so I think that's going to help with their explosive play rate that they really struggled with last year. We'll talk more about Trent Brown here in a little bit, but just to touch on just 2 of the other signings I really liked. Obviously, Sheldon Rankins had to get that pass rush from the interior. 26 out of 76 D tackles in pass rush grade last year, 15th out of 56 in pure pass rush grade on true pass sets. So taking out play action, taking out screens, really just when they pin their ears back and go after the quarterback. So he's been very productive. And I know a lot has been made, rightly so, about DJ Reader leaving, right? We can discuss that more too later. But comparatively, you are probably shifting a little bit from the run stops to the pass rush stops, where even though DJ Reader played 535 snaps last season and he had 22 defensive stops, Rankins played 673, so about 130 more. He had 28 defensive stops. So it's not like you're getting some drastic drop off here. It's just that you're going to find a lot more of those stops in the passing game, on the dropbacks, and the occasional run game too. And where I know a lot's been made about his rushing grade, but missed tackles goes so heavily, especially for guys with lower tackle attempts, right? Corners, linebackers, safeties, these guys are going to be doing a lot of the cleanup work. And when you're getting double teamed or you're catching that interior kind of blocking, you're going to have a low tackle attempt number, right? So if you throw missed tackles in there, that can really fluctuate a PFF grade like that on a small sample. So that's something to keep in mind with him. And lastly, before I finish my long-winded rant here and let Logan jump in on some of these, love the Zach Moss signing. You get a smidge younger running back. He was, in terms of rushing yards over expectation, finished 7th and was 15th in missed tackles forced per attempt, forced 36 missed tackles last season on just 184 rush attempts. So really excited about what he can do for the offense in terms of creating yards outside of what is blocked for him, which with a newly revamped offensive line, I think we're all expecting that run game can be a little more consistent and a little more effective for the Bengals this year. So that's all really exciting overall. I'd say they've got a solid B plus. Sure, there's a hole right now in nose tackle, and they're not done, but I would expect the draft to probably be an answer there, and not much more than just some minimal deals coming up for any other holes.
Yeah, I like it. I think in general, I'm right there with the B plus with Evan, but kind of for some different reasons. I really, if you just look at the names of the free agent signings, they're not going to wow you necessarily, but the Bengals did a fantastic job of getting them on affordable deals, which is always going to be easier said than done, and something that we did extremely well this year, which is awesome. But another reason that I like it so much is because I feel like the players that we signed truly fit the team and truly fit what we're trying to do more than, say, some of the players that had left. We look at Mike Gesicki. He's a guy who can be your slot receiver and be a tight end, so you can hide what you're going to do a little bit more. We couldn't really do that with any of the tight ends we had last year. We look at Zach Moss. Zach Moss is, what's he good at? Pass blocking and explosive run plays. That's 2 things that we kind of lacked at a true starting level running back. Joe Mixon was great, but we all know he wasn't the best pass blocker and he wasn't very explosive. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, but what do we need from the running back position? We need somebody who can sit back there and block a little bit better, and a guy who can break off some big runs, and that's what Zach Moss does. Evan alluded to the Rankins thing. Yes, we got worse in the run game, but where did we suck? We suck at rushing the passer. What's he going to help with? Rushing the passer. We gave up a lot of explosive plays. What's Geno Stone going to help with? Preventing these explosive plays. So while I think, on paper, it doesn't look like anything overly impressive, they did a good job at retooling their roster a little bit to fit what they're truly trying to do. And I think that goes a long way with player success. I mean, they're going to use players to their strengths. I think you can do that a little bit more. Getting Geno Stone and Von Bell allows you to do whatever the hell you want to do with Dax Hill, whether that's sit him and let him learn, whether that's use him here, there, over there, wherever. You can do more creative things with him, which you couldn't necessarily do before with the depth we had. Now you can literally do whatever you want with him. But my only gripe I will give the Bengals in free agency is it's a little bit nitpicky here, but we look at it, and I don't want to say they didn't, because they did it all right, but I don't think they erased a need in the draft at all. We're going into we wanted to come in a draft. We need a tight end. We need a defensive tackle. We need offensive line. It would have been nice to kind of solve the issue in one of those areas to where we can go in the draft and open things up a little bit more. But I think we still need all those positions. And that doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing or any means. It's a little bit of a preference there for me. I would have liked to kind of erase a position of need in the draft to kind of open the board more to BPA, which I think is what you should always do. But again, that's a real nitpicky perspective on it. But all in all, it's been a pretty good free agency so far, and we still do have the draft left.
Well, I'm going to push back on that just a little bit. I hear where you're coming from, but I want you to elaborate a little more on that, because for me, when I look at what they did in free agency, I think that they did actually erase the potential for them to, have to pigeonhole themselves and go after a guy. You figure they did address right tackle, they did address tight end. The Bengals are always going to do things the way that they see fit, right?
Yeah.
But what I think they did is they bought themselves some time.
Yeah.
And I still think they can go best player available, because best player available in all likelihood, and we kind of discussed this before, in my honest opinion, is going to come down to a defensive tackle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a tackle. The way they see their board might shape up, if you will. I think the signing of Trent Brown securely puts him in there as the starter at right tackle this year. That's going to happen, right? So you think about it, like for me, I don't think much has necessarily changed the route in which they were always going to go. I never felt as if they would feel comfortable starting a rookie tackle there to begin with. I don't know if I'm dropping this tea leaf. I know Kelsey is in the know with this too, so I guess I'll break the news to everybody. The Bengals really like Byron Murphy.
Woo!
And if Byron Murphy is there, I think the Bengals would draft him.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't know if they believe he'll be there. And that being said, the other defensive tackle they like is Jerzhan Newton. Well, then the question becomes is, who do you like more? Do you like Jerzhan Newton? Do you like Amarius Mims? If it came down to Jerzhan Newton and Amarius Mims, I think they'd go Amarius Mims, right? And it's just all about the board. I don't know if there's a tackle that's going to be sitting on their board whose name is not Joe Alt, who the Bengals would select over Byron Murphy. I'll put it there. I believe if Byron Murphy, I'm saying it in today's day is what, March 20th, March 21st.
Mm-hmm.
If Byron Murphy's there, I think he's the pick for the Bengals at 18. I really believe that in my heart. So I guess sort of like my pushback is, I think they did everything that you'd expect them to do. No, they didn't secure a long-term answer, but they did secure an answer in their mind for this season.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think absolutely they did. They are a better team right now than they were last year going into 2024. But I'm just looking at it. They didn't they didn't get better in the future as well.
Okay,
that's a perspective I was looking
with.
at, to where it's like, yes, next year Trent Brown, awesome. Mike Gesicki, awesome. Von Bell, awesome. All these things are awesome.
To be honest, it goes back to what we always say, right? You draft for the future.
Mm-hmm.
You use free agency for the now, if you will. And so I think we're agreeing more than
I think we are too. It's just, we're not used to signing out these 1 year deals, 2 year deals. Where
you're right.
It's a little different.
I talked about this. I will last year I'll say the jungle. I said Cincinnati is becoming a destination where a lot of guys are going to want to sign here for a year deal.
Yeah.
To reestablish their value. Mike Gesicki's whole thing is, and you can't blame Mike Gesicki, you can't blame Trent Brown. These guys have been around the league. They've seen how it works in other places. The worst thing that they could do for themselves and for their brand and for their families is pick a place and say, this place looks like it's going to be great for me. Let me sign long-term, find myself in a long-term situation, and then be unhappy and because if you think about it, this is the last stop. Like wherever Trent Brown signs next long-term, that is his last stop, right?
Yes.
Wherever Mike Gesicki signs next, even though he's 28 years old, right?
This is their year to rehab their value, right?
This is it for them, right? Mm-hmm. So wherever they sign, they have to make sure, hey, it's actually going to work here, because Trent Brown was sold on Oakland or Las Vegas. It did not work. It didn't work out there, right? He went back to New England, went back home there. He was with the Niners before that too. And he was promised all this, that, and the third, and all that. And he did great with the Niners, which is why he secured the contract he did with the Patriots as well. You look at Mike Gesicki though. Mike Gesicki went to New England because he was sold on the fact that he'd have a prominent role in the offense. Here he has games where he's not even playing. He'd have a spectacular catch, a big yard gain, and what do you know? He's not even playing for the rest.
Pat on the back.
Yeah, so these guys have to look out for themselves as well. 100%. This is the smart move. Reestablish your value in the league. Make sure it works. Because you know what the Bengals did also that I really, really like? Hey, just in case Byron Murphy or a said player is sitting there at 18 that we love, number one, we don't have to be like, damn, let's go tackle just because we have a need there, right? But Trent Brown buys us some time, to where we don't have to reach, because you could say to yourself, oh, in the second round, we'll just grab that tackle. And then the second round rolls around, and then a guy that fell in the first round is right there in your face, and you're like, damn, okay. Now we're looking at Roger Rosengarten, whatever his name is, right? Or now we're looking at Garrett
Greenfield.
There we go. Garrett Greenfield from South Dakota State. And maybe you're like, I don't love them, but I see another guy on this board. Maybe I see a Jermaine Burton on the board. Maybe I see somebody like that who I really, really like. Well, that's why you sign who you sign in free agency. And for so many years, we saw the Bengals operate like a third world franchise where they didn't address their needs in free agency. And they go in the draft and they say, hey, you know what, guys? Hey, look at us. We have a need at center. We're drafting center. So even if it's the third or fourth best center in the draft or whoever, or an undersized center in the draft with short arms, no name in particular, we're going to draft them because remember, we have a need at center. That same draft class, right? Just think about it. I mean, hindsight's always 2020. But if you remember, the Bengals rolled out a safety tandem that year going into that draft before they drafted Jesse Bates. It was George Iloka as starting safety. Had they stayed pat and not try to outsmart the room and say, hey, you know what? We're going to trade with the Buffalo Bills who fleeced us. That's the last time I think the Bengals lost a trade, by the way, too. And we're going to get Cordy Glenn. We're going to move back in the draft. We're going to draft Billy Price, and then we're going to draft Jesse Bates. If the Bengals are really serious about remaking their defensive back room that year, could have had Derwin James, could have had Jesse Bates in the second round. Both of those things would have been beautiful for the team. So it's like, yeah, hindsight's always 2020, but sometimes, when you operate like a franchise, like how they're operating right now, you're showing your fan base, you're showing this team that you're doing whatever it takes to win. You cut Joe Mixon out of character, right? That's not what you do. You typically let guys see the life of their contract for the most part because the way the contract is typically structured. You made a lot of changes. And you stepped out of your own way. These are good moves. So I don't think that they pigeonholed themselves. Not saying that you said that, but I don't think they pigeonholed themselves going into the draft. And I think it's a beautiful spot to be in. Now, I have a theory that I want to talk to you guys about, but I'm going to save that for the show. I'm going to save that for later in the show. Because we need to get into a discussion. I feel like debating with one of y'all or talking with one of y'all. So we need to get into a little bit of a discussion. But before we do, make sure you guys do us a favor. We have over 300 people on the stream. Whether you're watching via First Star Media Group or whether you're watching on the Sit Down Malik Wright. Remember, it's simulcasted on both. We only have 31 likes. So do me a favor. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. No super chats, none of that. We're going to get to all your questions too. I promise you. Because it's strong. I'm feeling it today. I really am. Thanks, Mercer, for the coffee. I appreciate it too. Just make sure you guys drop your questions down in the comment section. Give this video a like. Daniel, I've been yapping a lot. Yeah. We've been yapping a lot. You haven't talked yet, so the floor is yours.
No, I think just to finish off with the free agency, I'm going to make this very simple in my opinion. I think it was an A. I think that the Bengals got an A, and the reason why is, for lack of a better term, they didn't fuck up. And I think that's a huge thing. That
Wait, can you say that for me one more time?
I'm not going to say it. No,
please,
it's a kid-friendly show.
It's not a kid-friendly show.
It's a kid-friendly show. The Bengals didn't fuck up. They didn't. Okay. And I look at so many other teams in the NFL. It's weird. And free agency is a time where they lose. They lose a lot. You lose because you spend 3-year contract, 4-year contract, and the Bengals didn't do that. They didn't mess up in a big way. And you filled some holes. You look at the safety room before you entered free agency, you filled that, right? I'm confident in the safety room. You look at your running back room, you're confident with your 2 running backs heading into the draft. You look at your tight end room, Sample, Hudson, and Gesicki, I'm confident in that. You look at, even adding Sheldon, Rankins, I think that's a huge get for the defensive line. You look at so many other places. Trent Brown, it could have been worse. You could have got Mekhi Becton, who, yes, he has potential, but day one stepping in, am I confident that Mekhi Becton and a rookie offensive tackle is going to be, am I confident that's going to protect Joe Burrow? No. So I think the Bengals get an A solely because they're setting themselves up for a very, very good draft. And we're not there yet. They still have to go out and make the picks, but they are rolling with, and we talked about this on the show, I truly think this roster can win a Super Bowl. 1,000%.
I'm going to push back just a little bit.
Yeah, let me hear.
Because I look at I 100% agree with you that they didn't blow it by giving out like the big money deal, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a litany of tweets floating out there of like, hey, here's the top free agent corner signing for every year of the last 8 years. And like, because you overpay, right? Because that's the nature of free agency, right? These guys are leaving because they aren't a sure thing. Otherwise they get locked up, right? And they end up getting the big contract and then never leave the team and never hit the market. So you do have to inherently overpay based on where a talent is. So obviously there's like a higher bust factor in general. So I agree with you on that, but I just look at corner and say, I am mortified that they have not added a veteran to that room.
Next. That's next.
Yeah,
and trust me, that's next. That's next.
But
on the horizon.
the interior defensive line still needing a nose tackle. I mean, again, you don't have to break the bank for a nose tackle, but like at the same time, this is not necessarily a draft that has a lot of nose tackle.
Everybody is celebrating. I put on Twitter. I said Daniel said his first cuss word on the show ever.
It was a little bit like when your like younger cousin is like hanging out with the and he drops that first cuss. You all look, okay, yeah, say it with your chest, my guy, yeah.
So we could be our listen. DJ USA already dropped it in the comment section. McLovin, if we all can get McLovin chat. McLovin text going in the chats right now to celebrate.
Hang on. We're gonna break some hearts. Have you seen Superbad?
I have.
Okay, thank Christ. Man. This guy hasn't seen Wedding Crashers, and
I'm pretty sure I've seen Wedding. I'm pretty sure I've seen Wedding Crashers, bro. But anyways, no, yeah, McLovin. We got. I appreciate these comments. I actually wear glasses, and it makes that even look 10 times better. But yeah, I think the only issue is defensive line. Right. And the cornerback, I just view the room in free agency. I think there's a lot of guys still out there. And that's why I don't view it as done. And it's more so I'm just looking at this and I see a lot of, Bengals fans and like are concerned with the free agency. I looked at every other roster at the NFL. And I'm just confident, man. I'm truly confident in the way that they're going about this into the draft because I look at what is the major hole. You got your quarterback. I can see this team. I compare them up with the Bills. You pair them up against any other roster. I think you go toe-to-toe with most rosters in the NFL.
It's a lot of singles and doubles on the signing. Not a home run that you're like, oh, man, like, here we go. But, like, you're
Do you understand that baseball reference, Malik?
Home run?
Singles
and doubles, yeah. But, no, that's the idea in free agency, right? Is like when they added Von Bell, Ted Karras, Alex Kappa, all these guys, we added a lot of good players, right? Because you just want to fill your roster out. And like Malik said earlier, they did a good job of hitting those needs, even if, like Logan said, it's just for 1 year or 2 years. It just reduces the severity of the need for the draft to where you can really kind of open things up. And if you do still have that hole next year, then you can say, okay, now let's proceed. I think they may have overfilled on their cup on safety a little bit. I'm really curious about that room and how that's going to unfold.
Well, we're going to talk more about that as the show unfolds.
I feel uneasy about that. It's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. But
it's not that uneasy, though. If you think about it, I'll give you a little nugget. I'll give you a little nugget.
I like nuggets, big nuggets, Wendy's nuggets.
Think about the year they made the Super Bowl run, the 3 safety head that they had. Remember, they like to come out in a pass-happy sort of base defense on a regular basis. You need that guy to cover a tight end. We know Mike Hilton's best skill set, unfortunately, isn't coverage, right? It's being his ability to tackle, his ability to blitz. Well, think about that. Then think about the job that Dax Hill did last year when tasked with that role. He did a very admirable job.
He did a very good job covering tight ends.
The question that the Bengals are having with Dax is, does he project better as a corner versus a safety?
See, now what scares me is I feel like we've got some Isaiah Simmons syndrome going on here where we have a very talented player, but Marvin Lewis said it. Many coaches have said it. Like, if you want to stick around in the league, if you want to have an impact, you got to be great at least one thing, right? And this first year, bouncing all around, not playing his natural position, not playing where he played in college, and then he comes out last year and it's like, okay, you're now free safety the whole time. And it's like, I can understand from his perspective that, there was a lot of growing pains between those years. And I feel like the Bengals staff, at least after the signing of Geno Stone, said, hey, we're going to find ways to rotate you in. We won't give you more than you can chew. I thought Jordan Battle did freaking great after he came in.
He still think, remember how we used Jordan Battle in Alabama? Jordan Battle could do both. He could play both safety spots.
Yeah.
He could play both safety spots, and people kind of forget that. Von Bell is also, I expect him to get.
Do you expect him to be like a rotational 400 snap guy, or you expect like you go out there like, and first snap of the game is freaking overrated. I hate that I'm doing this, but like First snap of nickel happens too high. You've got Von Bell and Geno Stone out there. I'm sitting there going, man, Jordan Battle was looking good, and I love Von Bell. I'm glad he's back. The leadership he brings, the communication, he's going to help them understand things better. But I don't want to stunt Jordan Battle's development.
I don't think they're going to, though.
I'm glad to hear that. You know a lot more than I do. These are just questions that came up in my brain as, this is all going on. Like, when Von Bell signed, I'm like, yes, okay, great. Leadership, communication, help. But fuck, where does that leave the young, talented safety room? Like, now you're talking about you might have to move on from a first-round pick, or you're going to have less information or comfortability with where that is. And like, I just hate that for Dax, because I feel like he, with more time, with more development, could have been that. And I just don't know if it's going to work out with him and the Bengals going forward.
So I'll say this. It's important. Remember, because Dax Hill was really never used as your traditional free safety at Michigan. He was used as a tweener. He was all over the place, right? He was just, you know who he's almost reminiscent of? Remember how Micah Hyde was used in Green Bay before he went to Buffalo? It's very reminiscent of that. He was literally a Swiss Army knife. They just had to find a role to get that guy on the football field. If I had to envision it, this is how I expect it to go. I expect Dax Hill to be involved on true passing situations, meaning you'll have your two corners on the outside. I expect Dax Hill to be involved to a degree. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, right? But I expect Dax Hill to be involved to a degree on third downs and passing downs, right? Known passing situations.
Right.
I expect the safety room to look very similar. I think Jordan Battle is going to be a starter without a shot of a doubt. I think Geno Stone, like, listen, when the Bengals signed Geno Stone, right, he had a very good year this past year.
He did.
But you also want to see consistency with him. Now, the ideal thing is I believe it'll be Jordan Battle, Geno Stone. But I think that third safety is going to be – I think you could see a situation in which Von Bell is playing the role of what they wanted Nick Scott to play this year. Right? I think that. So, like, a big issue with the Bengals defense last year was the communication on the back end. Understanding that you have young players at the safety position. So, if it's a passing situation and maybe you swap Von Bell out and you throw Jordan Battle in, or vice versa, whatever that looks like, that's what you do. But in all likelihood, the idea is you have Geno Stone as your starting free safety. You have Jordan Battle as your starting strong safety. I wouldn't even rule out them getting creative with the biggest issue that we saw came down. Remember, Jermaine Pratt's whole thing was, hey, I want to be a every down, three down linebacker, and you really weren't an every down, three down linebacker. You didn't do great. But what if they take Von Bell and they say, hey, Von Bell or Jordan Battle, we're going to pair you up with Logan Wilson. And
I like that. That's probably the best solution that I've heard.
I think you're going to, I'm going to say this, and this will be the second curse set on the show today. I think you're going to see a weird ass Lou defense this year.
Those are the best
ones.
That's
exciting, man. And I think there's opportunity there too to like cycle out Mike Hilton a little bit, because the dude is getting to 30 and it's like, hey, keep him fresh for the playoffs, man. Like, we don't want to wear him down and have him taking all the brunt of this tackling that you get from your slot corner up front. Like, I do feel that Dax has that versatility, has that physicality. And I do like your idea of saying, hey, Jermaine Pratt, that's a great point, that his contract year, which we see sometimes, coverage in general fluctuates a lot because of how much is involved with it, right? Like, think about if 3 of those tip ball interceptions go Dax Hill's way, what's the conversation around him comparatively, right? And that's rough, and that's the way it goes sometimes. Jesse Bates, that year he had tons of interceptions. Logan Wilson, the year he had tons of interceptions. It's just, you come back down to earth on the coverage stuff. So we've seen that with Jermaine Pratt. And so maybe that was just a flash in the pan of that contract year, because he was uncharacteristically good at that compared to the rest of his career. That's a really good thought. So it's encouraging to hear this.
I think it's going to be
this dialogue here.
I think Lou is going to transform defenses in the league this year. Here's the thing. I don't think you'll see the same thing each and every single week. I think you'll see it depending on the matchup. It'll be matchup dependent. It'll be matchup dependent. But I think you're going to see some weird ass looks at
when you're playing like the Dallas Goddard. You might see Dax Hill a little more for that tight end coverage. But
unfortunately, speaking more of this, I don't see a way in which some people's favorite, preseason safety makes the roster. I don't know if Tyson Anderson is going to be on the roster.
That's tough. I mean, man,
I just think it's a deep room.
I feel scared almost to be like, oh, I can take safety off the board for the Bengals, because we all thought that in the earlier rounds when they picked Jordan Battle too, because we were like, man, the safety room is deep. Like, they've got options. So, I'm
safety.
Yeah, I was like, as soon as I do it though, like one good safety is going to fall in their lap in the 3rd or 4th round, and they're just going to be like, "Hey, we got a good player here," which again should kind of be your mentality. But when you have that healthy of a rotation already,
Iron Man, he says, and I'm getting the question early. Dax will not be a corner. They needed more time and lose defense. Period. Jesse Bell were more vets. New house prepare, and they gelled over time. Don't discount Dax a safety spot. So if I say anything on this show, is because I speak to many different people throughout free agency process. There's a reason why the Bengals made signing a free safety a priority. You don't do that if you're completely sold, or if you are sold some semblance on your guy. They didn't sign Geno Stone to a 1-year deal. They signed Geno Stone to a 2-year deal. They brought back Von Bell. What did that tell you? They're not confident. Also, a lot of Dax Hill issues. The Dax Hill's issues, I would say, came down to also about the playbook, the communication playbook,
mental mistakes, not enough physical ability
100%,
whatsoever.
man. And to be able to operate that style of defense, you got to be smart out there. I don't think that Dax Hill will be the Bengals starting free safety. And I'll be the first to say it. I don't think he has a future at the Bengals starting free safety spot. I think he does have a future on this team. I just don't think it's at that spot.
It's the disappointing thing about this whole situation, right? Is the writing is on the wall for a 1st-round pick that you didn't really get much out of during the prime years of Joe Burrow. And that's that's the tough like needle to thread, right? And just kind of like the draft nuance discussion, because that year, like any year, you say fill the needs and draft good players, and you will find a way to get them on the roster. It's just unfortunate that like Hassan Reddick at his first stop, like Isaiah Simmons, gosh, a lot of Cardinals guys coming around. These tweeners, man, it's tough if you don't let them kind of specialize or learn one thing before you start putting a lot on them. It's just it's tough the way the situation's worked out.
I think that, knowing Lou, how much Lou loves Von Bell, I just don't.
Rightly so, man. Like Von Bell's a good player.
I don't think he camps out on the sideline. I think he finds his way on the field.
I think so too.
I think he finds his way on the field. I think it's gonna be hard pressed, but I know they love Jordan Battle. So it's just how's it gonna look at? I'm excited to see how it all plays out.
No, it'll be fun. And Lou's gonna do a good job, man.
This is the defensive backs defense now. This is what it comes down to, man. But yeah, I don't think Dax Hill will be has a future as a Bengals.
Yeah, and that's what I think. Like when I watch Dax Hill, this is the year that he really can still be, show up that 1st-round pedigree. And what I mean by that is there are many 1st-round or slot cornerbacks that are stars at the NFL level. And we watch some of Dax Hill's film, and just him coming off the edge as a blitzer. If that's his full-time role, if he is, in the role to cover a Travis Kelce, that is so important, especially come playoff time. And that's where we'll see what Lou wants to do with the defense. But if Dax is in that specific role, I think he could thrive. And I think he could be an absolute star at that position because you just see him coming off the edge as a blitzer.
He's good in the box.
It's like Mike Hilton. I would even compare him. Like, I think he could be a better blitzer than Mike Hilton, down the line in the future. So
that's a good problem to have, right?
Right.
Very good.
Dax Hill at slot corner.
And maybe it works out to like, God forbid, something happens with Mike Hilton this year. It doesn't work out. And then Dax Hill just slides right into that slot corner, pseudo safety box player. And that could be the role where he finds his strengths being played to.
Remember the Chiefs game that we were at, and we were, it was the AFC Championship. I'm sorry, but Mike Hilton.
Never forget it, Daniel.
One of my biggest issues in that game was 2 to 3 times Mike Hilton one-on-one. I forgot. I think it was MBS.
Got him every time.
One-on-one, Mike Hilton was getting cooked in man-to-man coverage. So if that's a role you have Dax Hill in, we could be looking at something different. So yes, I'm a huge fan of what they did, and we'll see what Lou cooks up.
Somebody says it's bad if you spend a first year on a slot corner. I don't disagree. I don't agree. I think that slot corner is becoming a more valued position in the league because it's an easier spot.
Nickel is base.
Yeah, 100%.
Nickel is base now. It's 100%. Not 3 linebackers.
100%. So it's not like a thing of where they're not on the field the majority of the time.
That is a starter.
The Bengals run 2 linebackers, right? And one of their linebackers isn't the greatest in pass coverage. I mean, neither one of them is the greatest, but one had a down year. I really believe, and I think that came down to a communication side of things. But if you think about it, you find yourself in a great spot with, maybe you go with a heavy pass-based defense look, if you will, with overloaded defensive back safety room, if you will, on some of these passing downs to force these quarterbacks' hands. Man, I in overs this year for the Bengals. That's what I envision. Which is
great.
king, which listen, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter where a guy got drafted if they provide ultimate value. I think that if you go back and you watch Dax Hill's Michigan tape, he is great around the line of scrimmage. He's great around the line of scrimmage. He's great when almost acting like, not in that backer role, but sort of like he's swimming around with those guys, if you will, not having to do just one set things. And I think that's the one thing I like about Dax Hill. When I see Dax Hill, he reminds me a lot of a Micah Hyde. Not Micah Hyde that he is now. I'm talking about Micah Hyde.
Just playing that like overhang position.
There's a reason he was a first round pick,
Yeah.
regardless.
Right.
Who was Micah Hyde backing up in Green Bay for years?
No,
No,
it wasn't Adrian.
No, he was here
Amos.
before.
He got there
That's
after.
right.
He was what's the dude's name
right.
with the Al? It wasn't Al Harris. It was who is the free safety for Green Bay Packers, man? It's gonna come to me. He was there for so
I gotta
long,
Google.
man.
We're gonna see
He
who finds
played
it
for
first.
he played for a while. Micah Hyde was backing him up, and they had a hard time getting Micah Hyde on the field. And Micah Hyde, I remember, that's why he Sam Shields was he was what's the Sam corner though?
Yeah, he was slot corner.
Sam was a slot corner.
With the Packers.
I'm going. I'm gonna beat
Morgan.
you.
Somebody said Morgan.
Nothing?
Woodson wasn't it? It wasn't Woodson.
Charles.
I don't remember who it was. It's gonna.
Morgan Burnett, Josh Jones. God, Josh Jones.
Was
I
it
forgot
Morgan
about
Burnett?
Josh Jones.
I don't know. Listen, it might have been Morgan Burnett. I'm seeing some Morgan Burnett's in here. All I know is that Micah Hyde, they had a hard time keeping Micah Hyde off the field. Micah Hyde got an opportunity to go to Buffalo. He went there and he made a long career out of being in Buffalo and did great with them. But that guy was an absolute beast. And yes, I think we all agree Dax Hill could still be a stud, but you could be a stud in a different type of role as well. Want to switch the conversation. The Bengals got, keeping it on that free agency talk. The Bengals went out and they signed Super Bowl winning tackle. Has experience at left tackle, has experience at right tackle, an absolute beast, right? Absolute beast in Trent Brown. Let's talk about it. Evan, let's hear your thoughts. What was your initial thoughts on the Bengals going out there signing Trent Brown?
I think that is a excellent signing. And we talked a little bit about Mekhi Becton, the thing that was with him when we talked pre-free agency about what that means in terms of your strategy, you're kind of taking a lot more of a dice roll on Mekhi Becton that, hey, if he stays healthy, if he plays well in camp and doesn't get outplayed by backup veteran or rookie or whoever they draft, and he hits his ceiling, then that can be good. Whereas the question with Trent Brown is just if he's healthy, then you have a very good pass protector. You have a good run blocker, and you have a mammoth of a human being there at the bookend on tackle. And if we know one thing about Joe Burrow, we know that he is excellent at feeling that edge pressure, climbing up in the pocket, getting that guy who's running the hoop on the outside a little bit. He's great at stepping up. It's the interior pressure that clogs that pocket that really muddies things up, that forces him out a little bit sometimes, that really becomes an issue. So I think having two mammoth human beings on both sides of the line like that, to where you're not going through them, you're not going to speed to power, doesn't matter. Like if you're trying to bull rush them, doesn't matter. You better have some good counters and inside moves if you want to try and get there. And even then, they have the length that they can take care of that. So really, I see him the same way that you would Orlando Brown, in the sense that, and I think he's a better pass blocker and moves a little better than Orlando Brown. But in the same sense that you're only going to see him on most of his losses getting beat on the edge, on the outside, right? And that is what I feel like Joe Burrow has the best sixth sense about. So I feel like it fits a lot more maybe for the Bengals than necessarily maybe it would if you had more of a statue kind of pocket passer quarterback. You had a lot of really deep drops that kind of put the quarterback in the path of that outside rush. So I think it's a great signing in that regard. Talking about consistency, he's been between a 68 and a 72 pass blocking grade in all 9 seasons. Has only played over 600 snaps 4 times in his career, though. A little bit of that is kind of like being a rotational, but a lot of it's kind of like injury and stuff. But again, if he's coming in here motivated and they checked him out with the doctors and you feel good, like even if the plan was you wanted to draft a guy in the first or the second round, you feel much better about waiting 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is before Trent Brown goes down. Then you have that little bit of a foothold in there, a little bit of time for that guy to get used to things before you throw him out there.
100%.
I think the other value is you basically have a swing tackle now. Mekhi Becton again, like would have been a decent right tackle option, but if Orlando Brown goes down now, then you can just slide Trent Brown over there and then put someone else at right tackle, and that really, and you don't have a giant drop off in your level of tackle play, and that versatility is going to be huge because a lot of people have talked about it. The injury luck that they had on the offensive line. I know T. Higgins, Joe Burrow, all that stuff really weighed down, DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson, all dealing with stuff here and there. But that offensive line largely stayed healthy. We'd be lucky to have that again, right? So you do need to have contingency plans. And I feel like Trent Brown is a great answer to the original problem as well as a contingency plan. So I feel like it's probably the best signing they could have made outside of a guy like Michael Onwenu.
Mhm.
And we're still waiting on the details. But, if you get 2 years of Trent Brown for, if he comes back after he's, happy for this year and they want to bring him back, well, hell, like if you get two years of Trent Brown for, the price of 1 year of Michael Onwenu, well, shoot, that's like what Daniel said. You're winning free agency that way by making a lot of good, solid deals. So I can't say enough about getting the deal done, getting this guy. I'm very happy with this move.
You
for
got
the
two
Bengals.
nasty tackles, dude.
You do, man. It's those guys are so fucking big, man. And like when we went down on the field and saw Orlando Brown Jr. when we were down there in Jacksonville, courtesy of First Star Logistics. Thank you all. We really appreciate that. That was an amazing time. Holy shit, dude. I was like, oh my God. Like I took a picture and I was like, this man is massive. It's different when you're standing next to 6'8", 340, 350, 360. Like it's different. It's a different type of size. So it's really exciting, man. I think
It just makes me put on my Gruden face every time I
makes
see
you do the Stang face.
Yeah.
Like
here's a guy.
here we go.
You got those big guys up there protecting Joey B.
I love what you did right
I
here.
love
Walk
it.
me through this.
Man, I lost my train of thought. We get so crazy.
I know. But the whole I almost called him Orlando Brown, just massive dude.
It's gonna happen.
The whole
It's gonna
Trent
happen.
Brown signing thing to me, I mean, there's not much room to complain.
Mhm.
Obviously, the only complaint you're really going to come and give is his injury history. But think about all the times through the recent years you're sitting at home watching the Bengals and just utterly complaining that our tackles suck. Our tackles keep getting beat. We want to keep Joe Burrow healthy. We want to keep freaking Andy Dalton up because this issue has been an issue for so long. I get the injuries are an issue, but if you can give me half a season of elite tackle play, sign me up every day of the week. Obviously, we want him to stay healthy. We want him to play every game. Maybe that happens. Maybe that doesn't. But he is going to give us more elite games from tackle than we have had in years. I don't know how many games he's necessarily going to give us, but week one, he's going to step on the field and he's going to be the best right tackle we've had in quite some time.
Say it.
Since
Do it.
It's
Do
been a
it.
while.
You won't.
It's been a while. So there's no reason to complain. Willie Anderson.
Yeah.
He's awesome. Maybe there's been some crazy games here or there from a random right tackle, I'm sure, but he's going to consistently
since a prime Andre Smith.
He's going to consistently be really good when he's on the field. And that's all you can ask for. I don't care if it's
Roll
6 games,
Tide.
all the games. He's going to be awesome when he's on the field.
Yeah. No, I mean, you guys pretty much nailed it. I think with Trent Brown, I'm just happy he hit the size, 6'8", 300-something pounds.
That's hard to get around.
That's like a foot and a half taller than you, bro.
And no, I mean, I would be looking up at this, brother. Like
Somebody, I don't know where that notion comes that Trent Brown struggle. I mean, not Trent. Yeah, Trent Brown. Sorry.
I know.
It's gonna hesitate. It's gonna be
I
Chase
have
Brown,
to-
Trent Brown.
I don't know where
yeah.
that
First
notion
name
comes that he
basis.
struggles with speed rushers. I've seen him manhandle a fair amount of speed
Yes.
rushers.
Oh yeah, no. If he can get his hands on you
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. You're gonna have to make yourself small. Like you
Yeah.
got to have like
Yeah.
Von Bell running
Mhm.
under the kitchen
Yeah,
table.
I think that's
one of
just
my
your
favorites.
basic. He's large. He's going to struggle with small people.
Well, also he's
Like
just
Tate.
not like I want to quantify this because he absolutely is a premium athlete. You have to be able to be 6'8", that big and move like the way you
Yeah.
do, right? But comparatively to smaller tackles and like when you weight adjust things, like it works out. But like it's funny because the Bengals have both tackles that are like the exception to the rule, right? Of
Mhm.
like you got to have good athletic traits to be able to move on that and deal with a lot of these premium crazy edge rushers. And we know Orlando Brown Jr.'s history with the combine, basically bombing it by a lot of people's standards. Trent Brown was similar in terms of his athletic score, but like both guys named Brown, both guys are outliers, and both of them now play tackle for the Bengals and are 6'8" and massive. I don't know, man. Do they both have like clubbed fingers on their? I don't know, man. Like we're gonna find out. I bet we're just gonna start calling them the Brown twins, and they're just gonna be rolling around together like Joe.
Let's not call them that.
No, okay, yeah, no.
Let's not do the Browns.
Brother, I just see the. I know Daniel hasn't seen the replacements. That's one for sure. He's not seen. That's like early 2000s. That's too soon for him. You've seen the replacement? Shane Falco, Keanu Reeves playing quarterback. Well, we're gonna have to like watch that together.
We got a binge.
He's got like 2 bookend tackles that they bring, and they act like his bouncers walking through because everybody's trying to mess with the football players in the parking lot, and they start escorting him, and they just flip a truck one time, and I'm like, man, that's the kind of guy that Joe Burrow got now. He's got those guys protecting him, man. Like it's exciting.
Somebody said, guys, let's start a Daniel fan page.
What? No,
that's funny.
No.
Yeah, let's all simple.
Danny Dimes.
No.
But anyway. We've got over 400 people in the chat. If you guys can do us a huge favor, give this video a like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've only got 88 likes on this video. If we can get that up, we greatly appreciate it. Speaking of draft, though, where the draft typically starts is they say in Mobile. They say draft starts in Mobile. All right. I don't know why am I messing that up? They say the draft starts in Mobile. And then they say, obviously, Indy, the whole 9 yards. But what happens after that? Well, you get a group of guys, executives, front office team members, people that are involved in the drafting process of some of these players. They get together, and it's what's known as sort of like a war room, right? And they discuss prospects. They talk about prospects that their said team should draft. They debate. They argue. They stand on the table for their guy. Well, last year, we introduced our own War Room, series here as we led you guys up to the NFL draft. And this year will be no different. Marissa? The NFL draft season is officially upon us. The legwork is done. The NFL Combine is over with. The pro days are finishing up. It's time to see if you've done enough to hear your name called on draft night. Prospects get together for an opportunity to see if there'll be a top 10 pick, a top 15 pick, all to hear.
The Bengals have pick number 18, and they have so many options. J.C. Latham, Byron Murphy, Brock Bowers. Who's it going to be?
Now, the cool thing about this is the discourse has already started. Will the Bengals pick an offensive tackle? Will the Bengals pick a defensive lineman? Will the Bengals pick everybody's favorite generational tight end? The discussion has already begun. But before we get to draft night, it all starts in the war room.
Bengals have turned in their selection. Let us go to the commissioner.
The Cincinnati Bengals select
All right, guys. So War Room, State of the Jungle, presented by First Star Logistics, is officially back starting next week. Let's clap it up.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to arguing, debating, standing on the table for my guys like I do each and every single episode, every single show. So there are 5 weeks until the NFL draft. So we'll have 5 War Rooms. We never know who might be joining us on the show. We never know who we might draft. You never know if I might go crazy and draft a position that, God damn it, we probably don't even need right now.
Who's this year's Carrington Valentine?
Thank you. I stood on the table for Carrington Valentine last year, and everybody ridiculed me. And what happened? What happened? That guy looked damn
Keaton
good.
Mitchell?
He looked good. He looked good. Keaton Mitchell looked good. A lot of our guys look good, man. Dan, you got some people in here saying that you need to work out more. So I'll have you know.
That's actually, that's
so here's the thing. Daniel goes to the gym
appreciate
almost
that,
every single day.
that's
How often does he go in though?
No, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing in the gym.
I'll tell you what he's doing. It's just his muscles can't
Yeah.
build off candy. You got to get the protein in
that's
there.
facts.
You know, you got to get a little more of the protein.
But
a little
DK
less of the
Metcalf
nerds
only
in
eats
there.
candy.
That's true. Hey,
So-
I think he's
But
probably
you
eats
compare
most
me and
stuff.
He does eat a lot of candy. That's for sure. 100%. He probably eats more candy than anybody I know. But
I
he
gotta
does work out.
start
every
looking
day.
like Trent Brown or J.C. Latham, man.
You trying to say I do?
I'm saying me.
The Brown
I'm
twins?
saying me.
That's crazy.
I'm saying
Anyway,
me.
I
I gotta start looking like them.
Man. Anyway, but yeah, War Room returns next week. Pretty pumped about it. Pretty excited about it. Getting ready to discuss with the boys. Excited to see what the setup is going to look like too, man. We might change it up from what it was last year. Maybe we'll go into an actual war room. Are we calling Daniel's fans Daniel Dimes? But anyway, you're getting so much love in the chat today, man.
I think it's because I cursed for the first time.
Yeah, man. You know, we're happy for you. But let's jump to the next discussion, which is who's the pick at 18 for the Bengals, guys? Who should the Bengals pick at 18? I guess I'll start this off. The obvious, positions you'll say are defensive tackle, right? And then you'll say it's tackle.
Yep.
But what if I presented to you guys a different position?
I'm in. Don't care what it is.
Defensive end.
I'm in. So in.
Defensive end. What if I said defensive end? Evan's already given me that look, but I'm going to talk about it for a second.
Go ahead.
I had a conversation
Love it.
with some people. Shut up.
I'm excited. I love it.
I had a discussion with some people, and apparently my guy, Jared Verse, is falling down boards. And it's not because of anything he's done. It's because everybody is overvaluing these quarterbacks, overvaluing these tackles. Man, could you imagine if Jared Verse falls to 18? When I turn on Jared Verse's tape, I see a game changer. And guys, I just want to talk about this because we talk about defensive tackle. We talk about tackle at a nauseating pace. I just want to discuss for a little bit the defensive end position.
Yeah.
When you look at Jared Verse's tape, the other day we went to go watch Fisk. We went to turn on his tape, and he didn't stand out to me. You know who stood out to me? Jared Verse. Seeing the way the entire line of scrimmage shifted for that guy, I keep saying to myself, what would the Bengals defensive line look like with Jared Verse? You see, Trey Hendrickson's going to be a free agent here in 2 years. But what could the defensive line look like with Jared Verse out there? You mean Jared Verse, in my opinion, could change the entire game. You need, right? You need these guys. You need these guys to be able to stay fresh, rush the passer, and do it consistently. I'm tired of banking on these third round, fourth round picks, flash pan guys. Oh, they had 2 sacks in the preseason. Yeah, we're going to throw at them. And then
Jordan Willis.
They never break
Jordan
through.
Willis guys.
They never break through.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me a guy in any other draft class? I guess we're getting a little bit of. War Room right now. Little preview of the War Room.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me a guy like Jared Verse in any other draft class would be going top 10, maybe even top 5? But in this draft class, because it's a rich quarterback class, because it's a rich offensive tackle class, because it's a rich wide receiver class, that guy is falling late into the teens?
Is he the best edge in the draft?
Yeah, 100%. You want to know why? Because he does everything that I look for. He could stop the run. He's a bat out of hell. He could stop the pass. He has a versatile pass rush move. The guy is difficult to get a hold of. He's difficult to stop. He's like a bat out of hell. He's the best edge rusher because every other edge rusher that I see in the draft, they do certain things specifically, right? When I look at a guy like Dallas Turner, who went to the University of Alabama, Roll Tide. That guy, I worry about his weight.
Yeah.
The concern with him is, can he put his hands in the ground and be successful in the NFL?
Yeah.
I'm not picking that guy over Jared Verse. When I see Chop Robinson, see a great speed rusher. Love Chop Robinson. But is he better than Jared Verse? Hell no.
Yeah,
He's not even on the same playing field as Jared Verse.
I think Verse is definitely the he might not be my edge one, but he's definitely the edge one with the best edge player with the least amount of questions. Like you said, Dallas Turner is super small, but he's a freak athlete. I love Latu so much, but his medicals are terrible. And maybe some teams won't care about that, but I think Verse is definitely the player, the edge with the least amount of questions, the least amount of worries. He's going to be a solid NFL player. Maybe some guys end up being better than him, but going in day one, he's going to be a good NFL edge player.
And just to talk about, the Bengals side, obviously, Myles Murphy is going to get a shot. He is. He deserves to get a shot. But when you look and you compare the film of a guy like Myles Murphy,
there is another side of the defensive line. There's room.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, Myles Murphy's film was good. There's a reason why the Bengals picked him in the first round. But Jared Verse is on a whole different level than Miles Murphy was. I think a guy like Leotolatu, his pass rush repertoire is a mile ahead of Miles Murphy. So this is the conversation. Would the Bengals, draft the Verse, draft the Latu, draft the Chop, and, stymie the growth of Miles Murphy? We don't know. But should they entertain the conversation of a guy like Jared Verse? All I know is when you turn on the film of Jared Verse, the dude stands out. The dude is
Here we are.
productive.
I'm not whoa. Because I think we're getting lost. Well, what I'm just saying is getting lost in translation here. This has nothing to do about Miles Murphy.
No.
I'm not drafting a Jared Verse because I don't believe in Miles Murphy. I'm drafting a Jared Verse to pair with Miles Murphy when Trey Hendrickson's contract is up because I'm not trying to allocate more money out there. You mean to tell me this is a guy that could be absolutely a beast? That's my thought.
Not even just that, but like Daniel said, like this is not anything about Miles Murphy because like Malik mentioned, you have to replace 2 defensive ends, not this season, but the season after that. Like Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson both going to be off their contracts. And Trey Hendrickson right now is 30 and already has played 730 or so snaps in each of the last 2 seasons.
Started getting banged up a lot.
He hasn't made it through a full season in 3 seasons. He had like 800 and something the year before. So Trey Hendrickson hasn't made it through a full season and again, he doesn't need to be playing 1,000 snaps. He and Sam Hubbard at age 30 should not be playing 900, 1,000 snaps. Like I think you see maybe Sam Hubbard loses 100 or so snaps to Miles Murphy this season or like 200. These contracts come up in 2 years, which you'll still have 2 years of Miles Murphy. And then you would have 3 years left of Jared Verse in this universe. So then you have 2.5 to 3 years of cost-controlled rookie contracts at one of the most expensive positions other than quarterback in all of sports.
With 2
when you have
options.
Right. So like there's advantages to this. And this is what you're going to get in the war room, guys. Like we're going to be having multiple shows. We're going to have a lot of different scenarios. And we're not saying that you should do this or this is the most optimal thing, but it is important to consider in a scenario where the run on tackles, let's say the quarterbacks don't go as high or the wide receiver class doesn't go with 4 or 5 in the top 12, like people are saying. Okay, well then maybe Byron Murphy is off the board. Maybe Amarius Mims and Latham are off the board because the tackles start running because people are desperate for tackles. Out of the top 10 teams, almost every single one needs some sort of offensive lineman. So between all that, there is a scenario where even if it's a 5-10% chance that a good defensive player like a Jared Verse just happens to fall because maybe they love some other guy, maybe some team. We didn't think Jahmyr Gibbs was going to go in the first round last year, and he went 12. It takes one team to love you, right? Maybe one team looks at Chop Robinson, like Malik was saying, and goes, we don't care. That kind of athlete is special. We want it. We'll do it. We'll go ahead. Right. So like that's the confusing part, right? Maybe people say we like Dallas Turner. We're a little hesitant on Jared Verse comparatively, or just other positions go. Like it is a possibility, and it's just something that we ended up talking through where we say, hey, you have 2 edge rushers who are 30 who haven't made it through a full season in 2 seasons, and you need someone to take the pass rush relief off of them. You can get cheaper at a good position.
There's a reason the Philadelphia Eagles will draft a
Just
defensive
keep
end
doing it.
every year. It's the same philosophy that Malik is standing on the table for over there. And believe it or not, the Philadelphia Eagles are pretty good. So.
There's a guy in the comment section. I don't want to butcher your name, Bill Nathan Dean. He says, Ossai needs to play. Murphy needs to play. They can't make a difference by playing on the bench. I want to discuss that a little bit.
Don't say I'm not going to draft Jared Verse because we have Joseph Ossai.
Please
That
don't.
is bad process.
Please don't. And furthermore, what I'll even add on to that. Number one, Joseph Ossai is not stopping you from drafting a defensive end.
The same way Trent Brown's not stopping you from drafting an offensive tackle, even though he's good.
Here's the thing. We've also seen Joseph Ossai get extensive play time. And I've also, you know what? He does get play time. You know what you don't see? You don't see anything out there because he gets held up at the line. It seems like he is so slow out of his break when he's on the line, when he's on the defensive line. I've seen enough of that. I've seen it consistently. They've tried him inside, they've tried him outside. You've shown flashes, but flashes are not enough. And I understand they're hanging their hat on, hey, this is the year Joseph Ossai could really prove himself because this is the first year he's not dealing with surgeries. We've been waiting for Ossai to show. But let's play devil's advocate. Let's play devil's advocate for a second, guys.
I'm good at this game.
Let's play this game. Joseph Ossai goes out there this year, has a career year. What do you think is going to happen next year when his contract is up and it's time to re-sign him long-term? And teams are going to be knocking down that guy's door. How old is he? 23, 24? Going to be knocking down that
Bring
young
me
player's
a comp
door.
pick, baby.
And they're going to be throwing money at him. And they're going to be like, we believe in you. We want to throw money at you. We want you to be our defensive end. You think the Bengals are going to be able to match some of that money, or you think they're going to match some of that money? So the fact of the matter is, if you are banking on Joseph Ossai having a breakout year, well, guess what? I'm banking on him to cash in with another team after said breakout year.
Yeah.
That being said, I want to make sure I have a contingency plan in place. And the contingency plan in place, whether he breaks out, whether he's not, I've seen what I've seen so far. If Jared Verse, just playing devil's advocate, if Jared Verse is sitting there at 18, it's hard to pass up on that guy.
Yeah.
It's hard to pass up on that guy. That's just my thoughts. What are you guys' thoughts? What are some positions or position do you think the Bengals should go at 18? Give me something different, guys. This is a little preview of the war room. Give me something different from the standard. Oh, draft tackle. Oh, draft Jerzhan Newton. Give me something different. Stand out. Daniel, I challenge you. You watch more film than a little bit. Talk to me.
I mean, something different though. This is the hard thing, right? Because I look at corner.
Yeah.
No.
Roll Tide, baby.
Nope.
Not that crazy, Daniel. Come on.
You just asked
I'm right there
different.
with you, Daniel.
Listen,
That's crazy.
like when I look at the
Talk about
cornerback,
stymie and growth.
hold on. Whoa, you just asked me something
I'm
different.
sorry. Go ahead.
This
No.
dude cusses once. Look at him.
Yeah, he starts feeling
I don't.
himself.
I promise you, I'm not, because I want to talk about Jerzhan Newton. But let's
We'll
talk
talk about him.
Well,
He's
jumbled
talking
in.
about his
Real
corners
quick,
first.
cornerbacks. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of these guys at the top of the draft. I like Terrion Arnold.
Terrion Arnold is
I like him.
underrated.
I like him. I think he's very good. I think he's very fundamentally sound. I like Quinyon Mitchell a lot as well. I think those would be the two guys that you look at. But for me, when I look at the cornerbacks in this class, truly, I see other guys that you can get later in the draft, in round 3, in round 4. And that's kind of been, a theme of what, Lou Anarumo has been able to do. You get these guys like Eli Apple that is a retread, and you can make him a starter and he can be very productive. So if I'm looking at the cornerbacks, Terrion Arnold, yes, is a very good prospect, man-to-man cover corner. His ability to flip his hips, his ability to, his play recognition. He's got some lapses, in zone coverage, but a lot of that is just you got to get into an NFL scheme. And I really do like Quinyon Mitchell. But to be honest, how I'm looking at this, the offensive tackles, everybody's going to talk about them. I pair them up like this. I think Olufashanu and I think Amarius Mims are in the same category of you're banking on potential there. Both guys are extreme athletes. Both guys have shown a lot of, I would say, weaknesses on the film or not playing a lot. Mims has only started, 6 games. If you're looking at offensive tackle, a guy like JC Latham, you're going to go with him for, being a very consistent, if you will, and not being the elite athlete. What I think right now makes the most sense offensive tackle wise is going to be a guy, and this isn't my pick, but it would be Fuaga if he's there. And the reason why is he's a guy 1,000% you can kick him inside. You can 1,000% kick him inside, start his NFL career in the interior of the offensive line, because it is very rare, guys, that offensive tackles come in day one and can be dominant. They have to learn. There's a huge learning curve, and we've seen the Bengals have struggled. And I think the way to counteract that is you move a guy interior offensive line to start his career. But my final thing, I'll just say I really like Jerzhan Newton. And I think it'll just get lost within the shuffle because Byron Murphy is, obviously moving up awards. But Jerzhan Newton, I think his pass rush ability is elite, man. He is, his motor is great. And for me, when I look at defensive tackles, I want a guy with motor. I want a guy that's, pursuing the quarterback outside of the pocket. I want a guy that's pursuing the running backs, on the weak side. And that's what I think you get with Jerzhan Newton. So you're going to hear a lot about these tackles. You're going to hear a lot about Byron Murphy. I would really continue to look at Jerzhan Newton and say, okay, he's a guy. I think he'll be there. I don't think he goes high at all. I think teams will have Byron Murphy over him. So I know I said a lot, but
no, I like it a lot. And, I think realistically it's going to be a defensive tackle or some sort of right tackle in general. And that's what it's going to be more than likely, obviously, unless maybe the Bengals like Verse or somebody crazy falls to them or whatever. We've all talked about those scenarios so many times. Just another name I'm going to throw out there that Malik asked that's different. I don't necessarily think he would go this high. The Bengals would necessarily be on him, but he's a guy that does a lot of things well. He's very versatile and can fill a lot of needs. And, we talked about the free agency we have where, we kind of hit everything. We didn't hit anything necessarily for the future too much, but we can just draft guys that can do a lot of things. Again, a name we have not really considered, Graham Barton from Duke. And I only say this because he can truly play all 5 positions on the offensive line. So what do you need? This year, maybe he's our left guard. Maybe next year, he's our right tackle. Maybe in 2 years from now, he's our center. When you think of him, think of a guy like Elton Jenkins for the Packers, who has played, again, essentially all 5 spots on the offensive line. I think there is so much value in a person being able to play all 5 positions or multiple positions at least an average to above average level. And I think Graham Barton can do that. Again, that's not necessarily a guy that I'm going to take at 18. I do have, a back end of a first round grade on him. But again, when you're in a position where you just want talent and you don't necessarily know where you want to put it, but he's good, he can play wherever the hell you want to play him, I think there's some big value to that as well.
For sure, man. I was kind of in the same line of thinking that Daniel was, man, where I look at the need for outside corner, man. This is a passing league, and I say it every year. I say it all the time. You can never have enough talented defensive backs because it's where you see so many of these sprinting full speed, start, stop, soft tissue injuries to calves, ankles, groins, everything else. It's tough, man, to be doing that. And on top of that, you got to be able to rotate because you can't just be out there sprinting and covering all over the place. Like that's tough for corners to do for 60, 70 snaps a game on the defense. So, I think that's really important. We remember what Eli Apple was able to do as a rotational guy who ended up starting for them. Even Cam Taylor-Britt, who was supposed to be a rotational guy, ended up starting for him because of injuries. Like this happens constantly. And right now you're looking at a 7th round, second-year player in DJ Ivey coming off an ACL as your backup outside corner. Like I don't think anybody feels comfortable with that as much as he impressed when he was healthy in special teams in very, very, very limited roles last year. That's concerning to me. So if you're sitting there saying, hey, there's a run on trench players, offensive and defensive tackles and whatever else, and you end up looking at that where it's like, hey, we can get a guy who is different a little bit in terms of what you get from DJ Turner, where you can get some insurance for him or get insurance for Cam Taylor-Britt maybe having some injury problems, where you get a guy who has a longer wingspan, who has more of those athletic traits, who has a lot of really good tape and was a very, very, very good corner for Alabama last season. Like and I know a lot of people, Alabama corners, they're not happy about this. Who's the one who got drafted by the Jets in like 20 D Milliner? Is that right?
D Milliner.
People since D Milliner, everybody hates Alabama defensive backs. I remember that when Drake Kirkpatrick got drafted. But no, I think that's a way to add a guy who could probably end up even playing 300, 400, 500 snaps for you. Maybe if there even is or isn't an injury, if you want to rotate guys in, because they saw them rotate guys in on the boundary last year. Lou doesn't have a problem with that. Sure, he'd probably like to have some guys that he can just trust to go out there every single play, but that's a lot to ask from a DB room that is, all 24 and younger, right?
Yeah.
So that would just help add a great talent to a defensive back room and just give you more options. And plus, he played in the slot for like 300 or 400 snaps his first year. So like he has that versatility where, again, Mike Hilton goes down, boom, you can slide somebody in there and you have that comfortability, that versatility to mix and match the skill sets. I know you're not loving it.
No, I don't. And I'll tell you why, because I think when you look at it, what are you saying about Cam Taylor-Britt? What are you saying about DJ Turner? Not you guys, but I know people are asking that. I think you get a lot more by bringing a veteran in personally, because I think that DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt showed enough to be excited about.
But then you definitely have a Mike Hilton replacement on the roster, whether that is Cam Taylor-Britt, whether that is Terry Arnold, and
but whether that is Dax Hill,
DJ Turner.
But is that's the biggest projection, right?
Right? Yeah.
Because
I believe I have to believe based on that's the thought process.
No, I can understand.
And I just think it makes a lot of sense bringing in a veteran. I said it on Bengals Gyms and Friends show going in. Bengals were going to look to sign a defensive tackle on free agency. They were going to look to sign a right tackle, look to sign a safety, going to look to sign a veteran corner. They've done all those things. Nose tackle, they kind of swung and missed out on a little bit.
And there are still veteran corners out there. There
are still
I keep looking at the fact that Mike Hilton is 30, that this is his last season on his contract. Like You do have to have a plan for that.
100%.
He's been an extremely valuable piece. People were asking earlier about the value of slot corner. Like, what has Mike Hilton been for this defense? Like outside of a couple games where he got picked on, like right? Yeah.
Contract anymore.
I do want to get to some of the questions. I do want to answer my guy Michael Jadon. He said, Malik, how would you feel if the Bengals were? What if I told you you could get Verse in the first and Devondre Sweat the second, but you have to settle for Blake Fisher or Paul from Houston? What would you say? I would say that you've probably listened to me on the show or listened to me all throughout the past week, because anybody that knows me knows I'm a big Blake Fisher guy. I think the guy is absolutely stout in the run game, stout in the pass game. And he's one of the true guys that you could plug and play at right tackle, I believe, and have a long career. I'd also say that I like Devondre Sweat a lot. You know how I feel about Jared Verse. To me, that would be a home run. Yeah.
I think in general, he asked specifically about Paul and Fisher, but I mean, to be honest, like in the third-ish round, there's some high floor tackles.
Yes.
There might not be Pro Bowl, all pro level talents there. But I think there's plenty of tackles that you can just like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine there. And at the end of the day, we always talk about, you don't need 5 amazing offensive linemen. If I can draft an average tackle in the third round, every team's going to do that every year, and I think there's plenty of tackles in that range that can be fine. Again, they might not be super high ceiling guys, but there are plenty of tackles that can come in and play and do the job.
And now you think about it, the Bengals have 2 third-round picks. Every mock draft sim, Mike, I'm just along with you, man. I've done mock draft simulators. I haven't been one of those people that have released them on Twitter, because that's one of my things that kind of annoy me when I just go on Twitter.
You're playing around with stuff like that, and they don't know who was on the board and everything else. Like, you end up in weird situations. Why would you do that? I'm just playing around. I just wanted to see if I took, offensive tackle, what the defensive tackles in the third round look like when you get around to that.
And believe it or not, there are guys. Chris Jenkins, a guy that I like a lot from Michigan. I know people don't like to hear that because I said the M word. But it's
the Bengals like the guys coming out of the M word. So I mean, that's
what word?
Yeah, can we not?
But
the Brown twins, and
you guys are crazy on this show. But I want to get to like 5 questions.
I'm over here thinking like, what is a swear word that starts with M that I can't think of right now?
It just doesn't sound like.
I was like, man, I think I've said everything at least one time or another on this show. Like, I'm missing out on something.
Y'all are crazy on this show. This show is unhinged. Hopefully, this is your one stop for Bengals things when we're not acting crazy. But Daniel, let's answer about 4 or 5 questions and get out of here, man.
Of course. So we got a bunch of questions, but some quick ones. Our guy Sway said, how high do you guys think the Bengals are at running back in this year's draft class? And I guess just overall thoughts on running backs in this class for the Bengals.
I don't think that it's going to be, I can't see them drafting the position within the first 3 rounds. I can't.
Yeah, the earliest I would say maybe is that the third comp pick we just got, and that still feels a little
rich
high for me.
Yeah,
but I think that's the first pick where they can kind of start to do more, I guess, out of the box like picks.
Maybe you take another Chase Brown type guy. Maybe you take you just take a swing on Frank Gore Jr. in the 6th round. Take a chance on those NFL bloodlines like we were asking for who was
Stephen Gilmore.
Stephen Gilmore. Yeah, we were asking for Stephen Gilmore. Yeah.
We can bring him back with his brother if we want. That'd be kind of cool.
I think that'd be good.
This show is unhinged. You guys are.
We got Parker Blake said, is anyone worried about
shout out Parker
availability? He said heard a ton of it with Becton, but none with, I think, availability about Trent Brown.
Yeah, no, and I touched on that a little bit where I said I think he's made it past 600 snaps in 3 out of 9 seasons. And now one of those, I don't think he was fully starting for that, and he was kind of sharing the load a little bit, but that's definitely concerning. You're taking basically a 30 to 40% chance that Trent Brown plays the whole season, which is why it just doesn't make you go offensive tackle first round, right? You can go their second round and say, hey, if we feel like this guy needs to get his feet under him, Miles Murphy style, where, hey, after the bye in week 8, we feel like he's had time to catch up to the speed of the game, work on some technique things, correct some issues, then suddenly you can hit the ground running if, God forbid, something does happen to one of Orlando Brown Jr. or Trent Brown. So that's I definitely think it's a fair concern. I just think the difference between him and Becton is that obviously the health concern is the same for both of them. But
Mhm.
with Becton, you might pick the second round guy and go,
Mhm.
shit,
He's better.
Becton's getting outplayed in camp right now, and that's not going to happen with
Right.
Trent Brown. Like Trent Brown is going to be the starter.
100%.
So I feel like that's the difference in why people are maybe a little bit higher on the Trent
Yeah.
Brown signing than they would
And-
of the Becton
And,
prospect.
and I also just want to say, Parker, you do a great job.
Yes, he does.
Fantastic.
I don't say I want to work. I'd like to work with many people, but if you lived here in Cincinnati, and I believe you live
He's in
Utah, right?
Yeah.
You'd have a spot on the show alongside me and the boys, man, because I think you do a fantastic job, man. And you and I have shared some nice
That's
DMs
very
back and
good
forth.
football
man.
discussions. With
Very,
Parker,
very,
man.
very good football discussions.
I'll tell you,
very good
while
offensive
we're just giving props to
Yeah.
Parker, he has reached out and has been very open minded.
Yeah.
I talked about like Zach Robinson
Yeah.
being at PFF and being a football guy, but always being curious about what else don't I know. And like that's shout out to you, man. You're one of the minds like that, man. And keep
Yeah.
that
It's-
curiosity for sure.
It's really hard to make offensive line fun for a lot of normal
It
people,
is,
and
man.
He does a great job.
No, that's a good brand. You and draft guy Jared, man. You guys are doing good work. Keep it up.
For sure, my man. So keep up the great work, man. Appreciate you always tuning in to the show and supporting too.
We got Mark Young said, just got the kids to bed. Who day everyone will catch up and watch from the beginning later. We appreciate you, Mark. Our guy Michael Rolfe said, Malik, taking your cues on a few players, Bowers, Jackson Powers Johnson, and Latham. Why would you guys skip these three if you're drafting as the Bengals GM? So
Wait,
Bowers,
He's okay.
I'm not quite sure. I think he's.
Why would you pass on these guys?
Yeah.
Like if you were saying, why would you pass on any of those three players?
Okay. Are you saying I said that I'm passing on these
No,
guys?
it's just a question. Like, why would you, if you were the Bengals
Okay.
GM, and we're not drafting Brock Bowers, JPJ, Latham, why didn't you draft them?
I mean, we believe in our players.
That's a good answer.
Should I do my Duke Tobin impersonation? When you're dealing with the draft, and no, I'm kidding. That's pretty damn good, man. But when it comes to Jax Power Johnson, there's no reason why I wouldn't draft him outside of just our philosophy, and probably not a couple years down the road, not paying the offensive line the money that they might be looking to get,
Especially on the interior.
Feels like the market is just booming right now.
Yeah.
In terms of the Latham, I think that Latham is inconsistent personally.
Penalties.
Yeah.
Gives up leverage too much for being
too often
gives his
for
chest
me.
up a lot.
I think that we've just seen too much. I think we've just seen too much, especially being Alabama Crimson Tides fan. I understand. I think that's the cool thing about the draft process. You get people who are, fans of teams and stuff like that, and they get to see a lot more.
Day. That's
Yeah, man.
That's
I just
flag,
I don't
man.
see what you guys see in Latham, and I think Evan and I were. And I'm not trying to say we know more. I'm just saying we've had the privilege of watching him. Or
He definitely looks the part.
Yeah.
Like, he has the size and the physicality and like some of the reps in the run game. But like you said, it's the consistency, man. It's down to down. It's
he's
like,
one of
why
the
aren't you doing this to more people?
He's one of the few people that's like, whatever avenue he goes, if he's great or terrible, I don't think he will be surprised.
Yeah.
Right.
And in terms of the tight end position, Brock Bowers, I think he's not going to dominate at the next level the way people think he's going to. I think he could be a fine player if used in the right system. But I just think that you have to think about it this way. And Georgia's system, the tight end is an afterthought in that system, right? There's not too many teams that are lining up saying, hey, we got to make sure that we take away the tight end position, if you will. The way Brock Bowers was also used at Georgia with handoffs, stuff like that, that is just not fitting the sort of Bengal style of offense. And the easy thing, I'm just being honest,
That's just funny that that's a sentence.
The easiest thing to say is, hey, Bengals can change their offensive philosophy. Yeah, we could say that, but they're not going to. Not going to change their offensive philosophy and do hand around and end around sweeps and stuff like that for a guy like Brock Bowers. And I think it's easy when you turn on Brock Bowers' tape to say, oh, this guy is just so dominant after the catch. But these are bigger guys that he's dealing with. He's an undersized tight end at 6'3". I just don't think that I don't think that you're getting what we think. I don't think you're getting what you think we're getting with a guy like Brock Bowers. To me, it's funny. Daniel and I went back. We watched that. We went out and we watched some of the recent tight ends that have come out, man. And I think when you watch some of the tape, we watched the Kyle Pitts tape. We even went back and watched Eifert's tape. A lot of these guys' tape that you're watching is how the traditional tight end is being used in the NFL.
Mhm.
There aren't too many contested catches for a guy like Brock Bowers on his tape. He's usually catching the ball, breaking tackles, the whole
Running
9
in
yards,
space.
running in space. That's just not how the NFL works. So,
Yeah.
and my thought process, hey, all respect to Brock Bowers. Hope the guy goes on to have a fantastic career, but I just don't think that fantastic career will be in Cincinnati.
I think that's one of the most fun things about just like scouting and watching film in general is when you go back and watch those players you think of, or you know, like that's such a, like going back to watch Tyler Eifert college tape was probably so much fun, and he did it for no reason
for
at all
sure.
whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like just when you're watching a guy, and you're like, man, I wonder how this guy looked 8 years ago. Well, let me go find out. That's there's so many fun things about this process and being able to do it as much as we do. But
RIP Draft Breakdown. What a great YouTube channel.
So much fun.
Yeah, we got a couple more questions real quick. Tom Jones said, which team do you think is the greatest threat in the AFC North next year? You got the Steelers with Wilson and Fields. You got the Ravens with Lamar and the Browns with Deshaun and the crew.
I just think it's got to be. I mean, for me, it's just going to be the Ravens until proven otherwise. Essentially, the Steelers will always be at least average, and then the Browns are just the Browns. Like, you know, they always have a crazy roster that's really good, but they're just going to need to actually be good.
I feel like they've amassed a lot of talent, the Browns have, but I also don't know that it all fits necessarily cohesively together because you can pivot from this, right? Like we saw Zack Taylor was the wide zone, came in with the quarterback and said, we're going to go shotgun, we're going to go spread, a little bit away from his identity. Stefanski is definitely that outside zone of the same tree, right? But Deshaun Watson is more of the gun shotgun guy, and it feels like that's been butting heads a little bit. There was all the side talk in and out of the media surrounding his injury where like the coach would be like, I don't know why he's not playing. And then suddenly ownership would be like, no, guys, we all agreed to this. This was all, we all agreed. Yeah, we all knew. And it sounds like that Stefanski was getting a little frustrated with that. And I think you see that in the fact that they went and got Tyler Huntley and they got Jameis Winston.
And still have DTR.
Right. And so like, I feel like that writing on the wall shows that they're not confident in the most important position, and that's
all that matters.
Like right, and you still have like a good D line, you still have a good O line. You're adding some weapons with like Jerry Jeudy, but I definitely agree that the Ravens are just going to be the team to beat right now until the Steelers actually can field an offense and wide receivers. Like, you know, they can still add guys, but I'm looking at Dante Jackson as corner 2 right now, and I'm not really worried about it. Like I'm looking at their wide receiver room, and I'm not too concerned about it. So between all that, I agree that the Ravens are probably the team to beat right now.
Yeah,
Dante Jackson.
Yeah, Dante
what
Jackson.
could have been?
Yeah,
guys, you know, we've been live for almost an hour, 21 minutes. This tells me that we're in prime off-season form and we're ready for the War Rooms to start next week. Live from the First Star Logistics Studio, State of the Jungle War Rooms begin. I can't wait to discuss with the boys who we're going to pick, who our draft targets are. I can't wait for you guys to join in on the discussion. Nonetheless, it's sure to be exciting, electrifying, and I'm pumped up for it, man. I'm pumped up to go out this process with you guys, to break down all of these prospects, to see who we're going to get. We're going to go through all of the Bengals 10 picks. Will we keep all of the Bengals 10 picks? Will we trade up into the top 10? Will we trade back? Will we be active? That is going to be the question. Because here's the beautiful thing that we didn't discuss on the show today, guys. If the Bengals were to draft the right tackle, who's to say that right tackle doesn't ride the bench? Who's to say that right tackle doesn't get reps at left guard this year? And the Bengals say, hey, let's put the best starting 5 offensive linemen out there and let's build a fortress around number 9. Listen, I can't wait for War Room to start. I can't wait to debate with the guys. Let us know down in the comment section who your ideal draft picks are. Let us know down in the comment section if you're going to be watching us live when we go live for War Room next week. No, God knows I'm pumped up for it. I can't wait to discuss it all with you guys. As always, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics Studio. And reminder, every single time we go live, it's also simulcasted on the First Star Media Group's YouTube channel. On that channel, you can find In the Trenches with Dave Latham. He just had a fantastic interview with Bengals offensive line coach Frank Pollock. And I think he has another interview, or maybe he has come out or hasn't just yet, with Bengals newly minted running back Zack Moss. You also have Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry on there, and of course you have State of the Jungle. So you have it all. It's your one-stop shop for all things Bengals coverage from a unique perspective as well. Hope that you guys love the content that we put out. We appreciate you guys. And until next time.